Welcome to Afterthoughts, everybody. It's our Christmas special episode. It's that time of year again when the fire's roaring. You've got a hot mug of cocoa with maybe a little bit of Kahlua in it, or maybe you've got a coffee with some whiskey, or maybe you just got some whiskey. Who knows? But you're enjoying the festivities of this year. Snow is falling, or if you're in Texas, it's not. It's still autumn, honestly, here, but whatever. Season's greetings to all. I'm John Garcia, your host. We have a special episode that we are excited to talk about, a beautiful Christmas movie, really moving. Really just warms the cockles of the soul.
That word always gets me.
Yeah.
Cockles. Cockles. Makes me laugh every time.
That and buttress. Yeah, so joining me on this wonderful sleigh ride, our usual co-host, Ryan King.
How's it going? Are we having Billy as well?
Oh, no, we couldn't get
filthy
Billy.
We know what Billy did.
We unfortunately couldn't get Billy. He did call me, though, and he said some very disturbing things.
Very nasty
I hope
things,
he's okay wherever he is. And also joining us, Michael Dixon.
How's it going, John? Yeah, my cup at this time of year usually just has whiskey in it. You know, you put anything else into whiskey, it just gets worse.
Would you say that you're a Christmas Scrooge or a Grinch or a Krampus? Do you have a
little of all three?
Okay.
I think, kind of combined into some sort of unholy anti-festive monster.
A Groogemas, if you will.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yes, of course. Well, you're just like you're a little bit like Billy, then I guess he's a little bit of everything.
So, yeah, we're buds, Billy and me. We hang out sometimes, but some people are.
He's got a cool attic.
Yeah, he's got a nice attic. Some people say that they haven't ever seen us in the same room together, but I think they're wrong.
And the special Christmas movie we're talking about this time of year, the one that instills so much cheer and joy in the hearts and souls of little children, is Black Christmas.
A high school girl's been murdered. Mr. Harrison's daughter is missing. And now at the house where she lives, the other girls are getting obscene phone calls.
Remember those idyllic scenes out of your childhood?
There was a little girl murdered over in the park tonight.
Crisp winter nights, star bright, sleigh bells, crackling Yule logs, chestnuts roasting over open fires, carolers beneath snow-covered window ledges. Remember those. Remember them well. After Black Christmas, they'll never be the same again. Black Christmas, starring Olivia Hussey, Keir Dullea, Margot Kidder, and starring John Saxon as Lieutenant Fuller.
The 1974 movie directed by Bob Clark and written by Roy Moore. It's
not that Roy Moore.
Not that Roy Moore.
Not the failed Alabama Senate candidate /
Fucking creep!
This movie, the premise of Black Christmas is that there's a sorority group that's living on campus in, I don't remember if they even say where it is, but somewhere in like New England area, whatever.
Yeah,
it's cold.
Yeah. There's very little context provided.
Yes, very little. It's just off to the races with this one. But right before they're about to go on holiday, they start getting, they've been getting harassing phone calls and things start to escalate. And then one by one, members of the sorority are picked off while the rest of the sorority is trying to figure out who's doing it, who's the killer, what could happen from it. And it's kind of one of those early slasher films. But it doesn't really have it's all taking place in the same house. So it's a really locked down slasher. I didn't pick this specifically. I know we usually go on a rotation, but we all thought, hey, what's a Christmas movie we could watch? And if you've listened to the podcast for a while, before we did Christmas adjacent films, we've done straight on just It's a Wonderful Life.
We did the Simpsons Christmas
episode as well. Yeah. I don't think that we've done a Christmas horror episode to my knowledge.
Yeah, no.
So Ryan suggested Black Christmas and we said, yep, that sounds good. That's preferable to trying to find something like Hot Frosty or whatever the fuck else is being put out now. Even though I know Ryan watched Hot Frosty.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
I saw about 5 minutes of Hot Frosty when my girlfriend had it on, and I don't think she finished it, but yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
a
assume
whole other
Hot Frosty
conversation.
finished, but
Yes, I assumed Hot Frosty was a kind of finish.
Yeah, that's some kind of move, right?
it does sound like a sex act, the Hot Frosty.
Yeah. This is my second time seeing Black Christmas. And the first time I saw it, I really don't think that I liked it that much. I kind of was like, oh, okay, it was whatever it was. It's also one of those things where I think it has the Blade Runner problem, where it did a lot of really cool technical stuff. It started a lot of things for like the horror genre, or kicked off a lot of things in the slasher genre. And like now I just take that for granted because I've seen it in so many other movies that have done it either better or have improved or done something more technically like wowing since then. But considering it's like 74, this has a lot of handheld footage in it. They built like a special rig so that you could follow the killer's eyes wherever you're going. And all these kind of like suspenseful, this came out the same year as Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well.
Mhm.
So it's just kind of like this year of renaissance for different horror techniques and what people are trying to do. It's nice to know that they share common DNA and people saying the same name like 80 times
Over and over.
trying to find somebody. I really wish that there was more. Was it Franklin? Is that who it was? I wish he was in this.
Yeah.
How you think that creeper in the attic's gonna find us?
What do you mean they found a child? Do you think that if they went for a child, they'd go for me next because I'm childlike?
I'm gonna lose this baby fat at some point.
But this movie, the second time it grew on me. I like a lot of the things that it does. I'm starting to understand and appreciate a little bit more the technique behind it. I didn't really resonate well with the progression of it the first time, or I didn't pick up on the social commentary somehow. I don't know why, but there's a lot of like, police are really fucking ineffective and can't
I
do
love that
shit.
one policeman who just gets like criticized the whole movie. Like everybody hates him and he's doing a terrible job.
Always fucking up, and like he immediately he's told not to fuck up and he immediately fucks up. It's just great.
Right.
Yeah. I laughed a lot more this time through. I was having like a great time with it. I also like Margot Kidder just this time. I felt for her because she was drunk all the time. And it was concerningly so. And I'm pretty sure that she was method acting. I don't think that she was fake drunk. So, yeah, I loved the score in it as well. Just all of the kind of like off key notes played,
Discord,
really weird
yeah.
resonance. Yeah, the Discord within it. I noticed so many more things. So I liked it. The second time around, it makes me want to watch it again at some point. But I'll kick it over to Ryan. What are your initial thoughts on Black Christmas?
Yeah, I think this is the second time that I've watched it. I dug it the first time. I like the kind of cheap, shitty slasher.
Mm-hmm.
Not the ones that are just like shock value, jump value, but more of these just like there's an attempt at a mythology behind it or something, and there's maybe kind of a thematic something. It's all sort of like loosely there. It's kind of an excuse, but the like stylized, like being stylized, and obviously the like later Halloween or Friday the 13th, or certainly like Nightmare on Elm Street, like take it even further to where looking back at this one, it is almost like simple, like in the way that it's executed. But I think that also is what makes it's honestly funny.
Yeah.
Like
really
in a
funny
dark
moments.
Yeah, there's some really funny moments. There's some kind of like dark, funniness to it. It was interesting, like thinking about it from a technical standpoint. I was kind of like, how the hell are they doing the killer eye look? Like that would have been hard to do with like the size of a camera, like the pain in the ass that it was back then. And honestly, Friday the 13th, which isn't too long after this, also does that. But here you have a lot more where there's like actually shadow that you can see of the person, or they're trying to hide the camera in a good way. Kind of a good way. This one of those that like the kills feel a little bit worse than they are because you don't really see them. I think that also kind of adds to it. And the tension that you as the audience are in on this. Now, this is technically irony. Irony doesn't have to be funny, but you have this ironic tension that we know that we're the killer from the get-go. We know that people are dead and everyone else around it is just like, we're waiting for them to stumble into this. to relieve that tension. Acting's over the top.
Yeah.
Or in the case of the one girl's dad, like not even there.
Yeah. Very understated, to say the least.
Completely non-existent. And it is interesting how this and Texas Chainsaw Massacre, really, it's like the two of them coming out just created the genre. And Halloween kind of solidified this, building it around a holiday for some reason. Right, because Friday the 13th was like, oh, well, there was a Christmas one and there was a Halloween one, and what else can we do, right? It was literally just a copy movie, and it really, Friday the 13th is very much a copy of this movie, like a hard copy. It just has way better way better special effects and way more focus on sex, and that like is what pushes the genre like into that really sleazy territory. This one is like on that line of exploitation, like it is an exploitation, but it doesn't really drive too hard into it. So yeah, I still think it's enjoyable. I still think this is a good, like, classic slasher. It's not, a scary movie, quote unquote. It's dramatic, but it's not, I don't know, what do you call it? Like cerebral thriller. Like it's not really. And I don't know that the concept of a dude hanging out in your attic to kill you is necessarily creepy. It's honestly weirdly realistic. This is supposedly based on or like at least inspired by some real murders in Canada, and this is all filmed in Canada, which you can tell when they have the couple of stupid extras. They have that Canadian accent.
I heard a few stories in there.
I've been taking her out.
Yeah, exactly. But then when they were going to do the American release, it was right after the Ted Bundy murders, and they delayed it, which Ted Bundy climbed in windows at sororities or whatever and killed some girls, right? So it is like weirdly realistic compared to most of the slasher horror movies, but it doesn't necessarily feel that way.
Yeah. Dixon, what did you think of Black Christmas?
Yeah. John, I'm really surprised that you didn't like this on the first watch, because it's a slasher with your boy John Saxon.
I love John Saxon now. I think back then I wasn't really on board with the Saxon train, but I've seen him in so many things since. It's hard not to love John Saxon.
He always does yeoman's work, John Saxon. So I was going into this, I was like, I don't think I've seen this before, and I pulled up on Letterboxd, and I had given it a 2-star grade, and I was like, I don't remember watching this. And then I watched it, and I was like, no, I definitely didn't see this before. Turns out I had seen the 2019 remake.
The remakes,
graded the wrong one on Letterboxd, but I don't even really remember anything about it except that I think Imogen Poots was the star in it. But apparently it was very forgettable, and I gave it 2 stars. But I liked the 1974 version. There's a lot of tropes here that you've seen in every horror movie since so many times. Like, I didn't realize the call is coming from inside the house was from this movie. I thought that was from like Scream or something. I'm not even sure where I thought it was from, but I thought it was a more recent thing than Black Christmas.
There was another movie that was like the year before this that also had that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like those two back to back, I think, kind of like solidified that as a thing.
Yeah. Interesting. It's like there's a lot of cool kills, there's a lot of cool cinematography, and the vibes are interesting. I love the woman who plays the house mother.
Yes.
What's her name?
Mrs. Mack.
Mrs. Mack.
Yes, Mrs. Mack. Marion Waldman is the actress's name. Just loved her. She's just hiding hooch all over the house in random places. It's like, why are you doing this? Like, you're an adult living at a store. Like, you should be able to just have booze, right? Like, why is she hiding booze in the back of the toilet and like other random places?
The kids will drink it if they find it. Maybe
that's probably.
I guess, but you would think she would have like a lock on her door or something, or I don't know. But I thought that was hilarious. She's just always pulling booze out of something. Just like a very obscene old woman who is just like shocking the girl's dad who comes to try to find his missing daughter. He's just appalled at her language and drinking and like the naked posters all over the sorority house.
This is such a kindness you're doing. Yeah, I love that bit.
I always love seeing Keir Dullea from 2001: A Space Odyssey. You don't get to see him in a lot of other stuff, so that was interesting. There's a lot of stuff that works really well here. I think the stuff that I didn't like is that there's really no character depth at all here. Like all you know is that like the lead woman, Olivia Hussey, is like pregnant, wants to have an abortion, and her boyfriend Keir Dullea wants her to not have an abortion. And that's like really all you know about these people. Like there's really no backstory about, their relationships in this sorority, where they're going to college, what they're studying, like anything about them as people. The movie doesn't really care about that. It's kind of the script is just kind of there to put the kills together and move you along. And there's some really cool ones and stuff that works really well. And there's a lot of things this movie does that have been copied forever because they're really well done and they have some cool ideas. But it was hard for like during the middle, I got kind of bored with it and I was having trouble like really engaging with the story when there's like some kills at the start and then there's kind of a long lull in the middle where there's just, talking between characters who are very underdeveloped and not a lot going on there. And then by the end, it picks up again and has, some cool scenes. So overall, I liked it. I think it's a bit weak in, the second act is pretty weak and kind of drags a lot. But if you can get through that, it's only a 98-minute movie, so it's not like you have to really sit through long stretches. But overall, I liked it. I'm glad I've now seen the correct Black Christmas and not the shitty 2019 remake. But there's also like a 2006 remake, I think, that I am not planning on seeing.
They just continue to try to make it happen again.
Yeah, there's 2 remakes of it that both kind of try to change it. I think one of the things that is really intriguing about this is that we don't get resolution. Which I think some of the best slashers, we talk about Friday the 13th or Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or honestly like Halloween too, right? They end and it's like not exactly clear why any of it happened, right? Or if it's over.
The misdirect ending is really great. I thought that was because they lead you to believe that someone is the killer and go through this whole thing, and then we realize that person is not the killer at the end of the movie, and you're just left unresolved with the lead actress just asleep alone in the house and the killer's still there and the movie just ends.
That's like the greatest. That's like a really chilling credit roll too, while you're hearing the phone just ring and you're like, oh fuck, and you see the cop outside smoking a cigarette and not giving a shit. That whole build to it, I agree. The character work, not really there. This felt like much more of for me watching it the second time, I was like, oh, I'm like way more on the wavelength of the technical. Like the fact that I watched somebody with like a handheld camera or like a camera mounted to their shoulder climb a trellis with that camera and look up and keep going. I was kind of just like, the fuck are they? How did they do this? This is impressive just to see.
I went back and I looked at that, because I was fascinated with it. There's some camera trickery that happens where when he goes to stick his hands out, there's like a turn where he kind of looks, and he starts at the ground with his hands, and then moves his hands up. So you have this impression that he's climbing, but he's honestly like standing up.
That's brilliant,
and it looks like he's climbing. And they just like angle it and do it all in a way. I was like, oh man, that's tricky. That's nice.
Yeah. I will say, I think that, the act 2 definitely, it got like really weak when the characters started to do this pattern. It was like when they got into the pattern of stumbling into being murdered, or like I think when they really started to build it up was when Margot Kidder passed out drunk in her room. And then you were like, okay, now I really don't know where this is going. 'Cause it's like down to 2 sisters and one of them is like, oh, I took this cold medicine and I'm going to pass out. And I'm like, oh God, now he's going to go murder these sleeping people. But getting that kind of like back and forth, I think when it starts to wedge that doubt in one of the characters in, what's the actor's name from 2001? Keir Dullea. Yeah. In Keir Dullea, who looks like, Joel McHale dressed as Chevy Chase in A Futile and Stupid Gesture. They have the exact same appearance. In this movie, I kept seeing him and being like, that is not somebody playing Chevy Chase. That's just the guy from the 70s. That's what it looks like.
Every time he was on camera talking to his girlfriend, I just kept thinking, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm going to abort this child. The child is dangerous to the mission, Dave.
You can't do it, Hal. Don't do it.
Yeah. I like how not only do they red herring him, because it's the only plot line we have is between Peter and Jess.
Yeah.
But the fact that the like busted up piano noise is in the soundtrack, and then we see him like get pissed and wreck that piano. Even like if you were like a quote unquote smart viewer, you would be like, oh, see, they put the piano in there. Like that's like, because you find out in these like twist movies, they're like, they hint it right all through it. Yeah. And it's like, they give you everything down to the soundtrack pointing at this guy. Like,
yeah. And that whole scene was great too, him smashing the piano. But like the way that they built his character kind of seeming deranged. And at one point, Jess is like, well, he's an artist. So that's just his spirit. And like at that point, I feel like as an audience, you're like, that's bullshit. There's no way. But then it turns out he is just kind of like that level of unhinged as a person, that he would throw his entire like 8 years at a conservatory away and be like, I want to leave this place and run away with somebody. But like watching him, initially you see their interactions and it seems kind of coupley, and there's a bit more of like, that's when he gets the news, like she's pregnant, and they're like in person. And he's talking to her about it. He's like, this is great. This is fantastic. Like, I've always wanted to be a father. And then he immediately flips on her and starts talking about how she can't be doing this to him when he's about to go and do a performance. And then he guilts her into going to the performance, really setting him up as that villainous character. There's initially like something's off about their relationship, but at every step of the movie, it just does such a good job of wedging you further and further toward believing, to the point where in the third act, when I was like, there's no way that he could be the guy. Like, and I saw this movie before and I was like, oh, I don't think that it's him. But I was like, there's no way he's the guy in the fucking attic, because he's doing other shit. And the guy in the attic's doing shit too. They can't be in two places at once. But like, it was like powerful enough villainy on his part and fuckery that I thought, yeah, actually, maybe he is the fucking guy. I don't know.
If it's not him, it's somebody with his exact haircut.
Yeah. I was like, maybe his name was Billy when he was a child. Or maybe he's really lost it. After that piano performance, I'd lose it too. I don't know what the fuck he was doing.
Yeah, he was just banging some keys randomly there. Just like breaking. His psyche was breaking with the keys.
I feel like that's a scene where they were like, we don't care if you know how to play piano. Just fucking make it look like you're trying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's better if you're a little worse. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if Keir Dullea played the killer. Like, is it, his silhouette is very similar. The haircut's the same. The coolest kill in the movie is, Margot Kidder with the glass unicorn.
Yeah.
And that shot up at him, and you see light only unveiling one of his eyes, and the rest of his face is shrouded in darkness. And it's a really cool shot, but it's like, that looks a lot like Keir Dullea, and I wonder if he played that character to kind of throw you off. But they don't really say in the credits who played that guy, so it's either somebody who's completely uncredited or they had him do it.
Yeah,
it's the cameraman that did all the like POV shots. I'm not sure if that's the same person where you see the eye, but the eyes are different colors. The killer has like brown eyes and Keir Dullea has bluish eyes. So I know that that's different. And then they had somebody else that was like a voice actor that does all the stuff on the telephone.
It was a combination of that. There was like 5
so
people
like
doing
craft
voices on the phone. I watched a behind the scenes of this because they have like a 40-minute featurette from, I assume, a recent DVD release or something. But it's like the girl who plays Claire, who gets killed in the very beginning when she's wrapped with her own dry cleaning bag. And then
just placed in the window, and no one notices for the entirety of the movie that she's sitting like right there in the attic window.
Like, man, nobody really checks this attic ever. Like, I guess it fits.
Like, complete, just awful police work. Just amazing how bad
my God. When they go through the house and they're like, we're going to tap all the phones. And then they're like, well, there's a phone on this floor with the house mother's room. And like, yeah, we've done enough. We've tapped all the phones we possibly should. That's the greatest. And John Saxon's like, yeah, we're good. We've done our job. We're good.
The fact that at the beginning, the first girl, she's packing to leave. Yeah. And then she doesn't meet her dad and they all go along. But it takes forever before anyone even realizes like her half-packed bag is there. Like there's no, like everyone's like, oh, she ended up going somewhere else. She's hanging out with someone's house. But you would come in and be like, oh, she was like in the middle of packing her bag. That's weird. Yeah. Never comes up.
Yeah, there's a lot of logic gaps here that I just attribute to them being dumb college kids who are drunk most of the time and or have their own shit going on. And I believe that a lot more than
yeah. When Mrs. Mack is leaving and she's like, I might not be back, and I was like, oh, no, don't say that because now they won't look for you.
Yeah. And that's why you also shouldn't own a cat, because the cat will get you killed and not give a shit about it. And the cat just hangs out upstairs and licks the dead bodies.
Hangs out with dead bodies,
like all that it fucking does. But anyways, when I was watching this featurette, they talked about it and they were like, maybe Keir was the killer. I don't remember, because they were like, he definitely didn't do the voices. 5 people did it was like the director, a producer, and somebody else did some of those voices. And then they cut to Keir and he's like, I never played that guy. I was not anywhere near that. I didn't do any of that. And then they were like, it cut to all of the different actors having like a collective mismemory of it, where they were just like, no, I'm pretty sure he played this guy. Like, I think that he did. And everybody disagreed. It was pretty funny to see it, where I'm like, wow, even the cast has forgotten who the fuck played Billy.
Yeah. He filmed over just like a few days and interacted with almost, I think, Jess only.
Yeah.
You never see him in any scenes with anyone else because they filmed him kind of like they just had him for a short period of time. And so he only interacts with Jess, or you see him by himself. If you go back and look, it's kind of interesting where you're like, oh, he's barely there. He's just around the fringe of the movie.
Yeah. And I know that John Saxon wasn't originally cast to play that role. John Saxon actually showed up like the day before they started shooting and learned all of his lines, because they were going to give it to, was it Malcolm McDowell? No, that's Peter.
No,
Peter
there was somebody that ended up being
Edmund O'Brien.
Early dementia.
They're going to give it
He's
to
great.
Edmund O'Brien. Was in the early stages of Alzheimer's. And they brought.
I mostly know him from like
work.
40s and 50s movies. So
So they like brought him out. They went to go see him at the hotel before he was going to come and shoot, and he was going to play, the fucking police lieutenant, whatever. And he like told them a story that I guess he had told them before about his son, and it was like a totally different timeline that didn't add up about how he was like trying to break into the movies and whatever else. And they were like, oh, Edmund O'Brien is not of sound mind to do this, let alone in negative degree weather. And they panicked and were like, shit, who could we get? And it was only because the composer of the movie knew John Saxon from a previous movie that he was like, oh, just call up John Saxon. Like, let's just go between agents, not even like just bypass that and get him in. And John Saxon read the script and was like, yeah, sure, fuck it, I'll do it. And showed up and just really like nailed it. It was kind of amazing knowing that now.
Yeah. I would love to see the version with Edmund O'Brien, because I always like him and stuff. He always plays a very memorable character in every movie that he's in.
Yeah, he did. This gets Saxon
This gets Saxon the role in as a detective, also a lieutenant, I think, in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Yeah. It's just the same thing. I think
probably
McDowell,
also
they were
in. Didn't he do some work with Argento as well? Was he in what's it?
Tenebrae?
I don't think so. But yeah, he might have done some stuff.
But anyway,
he was definitely in something we watched. Maybe he was. I think they had McDowell tapped to be Peter.
You knew.
Yeah, he wasn't Tenebrae. You're right. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Malcolm McDowell would have been very terrifying in that role. I think that would have been an improvement over Keir Dullea. Not that Keir Dullea is bad in it, but McDowell is just so, he would have been perfect for that role.
Yeah.
A better unhinged look. Yeah.
Well, it just goes to show John Saxon, a man of many badges. In terms of this placement, like next to Texas Chainsaw Massacre and sort of the tropes it's setting up for slashers, this is when was Suspiria? 77? Like, when did Giallo really kick off?
Because Giallo kicks off in the 60s.
Okay.
And I would say that the Giallo in the like very tail end of the 60s and early 70s is when it gets super stylized. So the like zoom in on eyes, the lighting, a lot of the weird sex obsession.
Yeah, his first movie was in 70, right? Bird with Crystal Plumage. That's pretty good. I would recommend people check that one out.
But it has that same, you can already start to see like some of the influences being mixed around, where you have like the shadow play and the lighting for the characters, and the way that nobody really has any fucking backstory or fleshed out personality.
Right. Yeah. It's not important.
It doesn't matter. The kills are important. So wait, Dixon, you don't remember anything about the remakes? Wait, Ryan, did you see the remakes?
I remember almost nothing from the 2019 version. I just remember Imogen Poots was in it, and that's really about it. I remember seeing it, walking out of the theater, being like, and then never thinking about it again until like last week.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I saw it's like 2006 or something. I've seen that one and was like, this is stupid. Like it's because it's like, well, I'm also like, why remake it? Like I don't like the remaking Halloween, remaking Nightmare Now. Like this doesn't make any sense to me.
No reason to,
Yeah, I haven't watched that, but I read the plot for the other, and I'm like, same thing. Where I'm like, that's stupid. Like, why? What does that add?
Do you think that this movie, not to say like if it would be better or worse, but how different do you think it would have been if they never showed us the killer? If like people were just picked off in the house, up until
don't really.
Wouldn't
we
be
kind of
that
see
different.
his eye twice. We don't really see him per se either. I think that's good.
You know that he's in the house is the thing where like the ending.
Oh, if you just like dead bodies and we get nothing.
Yeah. Like the ending is a reveal of like, oh my God, the killer's inside the house. And you're like, oh fuck, sorry. Spoilers out there, everybody. But it's spoilers for like a 50-year-old movie. So it just has that thing where I always ask that question of when the reveal is like earth-shattering to the actor or the character, but not to the audience because you've always known. And now you're like, no, get the fuck out of the house. Like it's more of a time bomb situation. It's a Hitchcockian thing than if it was like a plot twist, I guess.
No, I think it's the dramatic irony that builds the tension, and having the tension is what makes this work as a drama, as a scary movie, is having that it's in the background, they're there. And same like Friday the 13th and Halloween, like we as the audience see him, whatever the shape, whatever the hands of the Friday the 13th, right? Like we know it's there and we don't understand it, right? And that's kind of the like core human scariness, is something that we don't understand that's out there.
Yeah. Also the frequent calls that have multiple voices adds a little extra layer of unsettling.
Those calls are like varying between terrifying and hilarious depending on the tone of the scene. And like early on, it's kind of funny, when they answer the phone and she's like, hey, everybody come listen. It's the moaner. And they all circle around the phone and they all hear him being like,
let me lick it, lick it, lick it, let me lick your pretty.
and like they're just kind of like all freaking, and then like everybody's kind of scared, and then Margot Kidder grabs the phone and she's like, fuck off, creep.
Oh, why don't you go find a wall socket and stick your tongue in it? That'll give you a charge.
There's like playful aspects of it, and then toward the end of the movie it's just fucking horrifying.
Your mother and I must know it.
He starts quoting what Peter has said to her earlier, and like, clearly either is Peter or has been listening to everything that's been going on while they've been in the house.
Just like having a wart removed.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and these other voices arguing, and
and it's something about like
babies,
Billy
crying,
and mommy and babies, and like it's just all kind of weird nonsense, but it ties in thematically with Olivia Hussey's drama over her abortion and whether she's going to do that, and it fits together well.
Yeah, I paused the movie. I had the closed captions on, and I paused the movie during the first phone call.
Oh, man, what did the closed
Darla
captions
walks
say?
by. Yes, Darla walks by, and it's like zoomed in on the phone, so you just see the phone, and you see the closed captions saying something about like pig pussies or something like nonsense. Yeah, and she's like, "What are you watching?" I was like, it's for the podcast. I was like, this is out of context. This is very out of context.
It's a 900 number. To look away. That whole the escalation of the phone calls throughout, I really was impressed with how they get you into that same mindset that the characters feel, that same terror that they're feeling when you hear Billy yelling at himself about himself and the baby and whatever else, and seeing like the escalated fear between the sorority sisters, how it kind of like I think when it starts to get into they're going to use a phone company and they need you to stay on the line longer was when I was like, oh, fuck. Like, what does he say? How do you keep that conversation going?
Yeah.
Because that, like, it sounds just like it could end at any moment unhinged. And it makes it all the more frustrating that the cops are constantly like, you got to stay on the phone a lot longer. You really have to endure a lot of this verbal abuse.
Yeah, and they've got a cop like running around at a massive switchboard somewhere trying to figure out like to track the call and all of that. And it's like, I don't know what you're supposed to do.
I don't really understand
when you
how
have
that
a
works,
crazy
yeah.
person calling you and saying he wants to lick your pussy and talking about Billy and mommy and whatever. And it's like, how do you keep that guy on or off the phone? He's going to call. He's going to stay on the phone as long as he wants, and then he's going to hang up. You know, like you don't have any options there.
It wasn't clear to me how the physical exchange worked where they were trying to run down the line. Yeah. It was quite strange.
I started looking that up after the movie because I was like, what the fuck was this scene? Like, is this a real thing? It can't be. It seems like it was totally Hollywood interpretation that just happened to be in this massive fucking switchboard section.
It's like hacking in a movie, like in Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
It's like we have to show something because it's a movie.
Let's just have a dude moving between racks of like moving mechanical parts until he finds the thing and jacks into it. I was like, all right, I guess that makes sense. It was a really cool fucking scene though. Like watching him run and come back and like the tension of like, will he make it or not? It really does build up that visual tension for you. But also like, it reaffirms like, why the fuck couldn't you just get a cop to stay in the house? And I think that's where the movie, you know, has a lot of subversive messages about, I think about like slashers, like Friday the 13th is all about, or not Friday the 13th, Halloween is about like, you know, somebody coming into your home and like invading that space. And this is much the same, where you'll probably have a period of horror movies that are like anything, if you step outside your home, anything can kill you. And they reaffirm it several times in this movie where they have like the search party that's hunting for the killer, those randos that show up with guns at their like kitchen window. They're like, hey, why don't you open the door for us? Yeah. We're the search party. And they're like, don't forget to lock your doors because that'll make sure that like nobody bad gets in.
And they're like, oh, fuck, none of our doors or windows are locked in this massive house. I guess we should probably do that.
Yeah. And then the police are like, we're going to station a police officer not in your house, but in a car right outside your house.
Don't worry, he's not going to fall asleep.
There's no way he's going to fall asleep and have his throat slit because he has his windows open in the cold, I guess. But yeah, and it's just like, we're going to position him in a place where you can never actually see because he's got tinted windows and it's dark. Mm-hmm. So you'll always think he's out there. But so many things where like the police just set up something like, they're probably safe. That's where like some of the comedy comes through is, you know, that shitty cop that John Saxon yells at him at the end when he's like, I need you to call and I need you to say in the most calm way possible that she needs to put the phone down and leave the house. Don't say anything else.
Like, not tell her that the killer is in the house.
Yeah. And be very calm about it. And then like 2 seconds into that call, he's just like, the killer's inside the house. Get the fuck out of the house. Like yelling at her.
Well, he's like, I need you to leave the house. He's like, oh, well, let me go upstairs and grab my things. He's like, no, I need you to leave the house. She's like, not getting it. He's like, Jesus Christ, the killer's in the house. Get out of the fucking house.
She's like,
that dude should not be allowed near like a suicide hotline. That'd be some fucked up shit. Look, don't do it. You have a lot to live for. Okay. Don't you fucking do it, you stupid idiot. But yeah,
a lot of the guys are saying you don't have the balls to do it.
Oh man. But yeah, like each person having this false confidence throughout it, I feel like that it adds an extra chilling element when I'm not familiar with the cultural time or context of like when people really started, you know, there's a lot of old boomers out there that'll be like, back in my day, you could leave a door unlocked and you'd know that everything was still in your house whenever you got home or whatever.
Right.
But like, this is that movie where it's like, nah, you don't do that. Somebody's going to come live in your house. They're going to fucking murder you. Even locking your doors doesn't stop them once they're in, kind of thing. It conjures the imagination. And I could see people getting out of the theater in 74 being terrified by that. And immediately going home and checking everything with like a baseball bat or something.
Uh-huh.
But now we have smart cameras and everything. And so it's kind of like, we just surveil ourselves. Well, what could go wrong? It's playing worse things. I don't know. Was there anything else that y'all had around this movie? Brian, were there any observations in your second go?
I think we got to hit him. I was definitely looking at the more technical aspects of, I mean, this is a cheap ass movie.
Yes.
Like, right. They get a house that fits what they need. You know, it
big
looks
house,
like a sorority house or was. Yeah,
Very
it's like
big
a nice
house.
big house. Yep. They have relatively cheap actors. This is before Margot Kidder was Lois Lane.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, yeah. So I'm like, there's a pretty cheap cast.
Yeah.
And it was a hit when it came out. And that's where the horror movies really do well, is you can make them pretty cheap and get quite a lot of money for them if they just hit whatever it is.
Yeah. Dixon, did you have any closing thoughts?
Not really. I think we kind of covered it. I mean, like, this movie is like, you watch this movie for the cinematography and the kills and like the vibes and the soundtrack. Like, it does all of those things really well. Did you guys have any like favorite kills aside from the Margot Kidder one, or any others that stood out?
Oh, the house mother was pretty great.
That
Just
was-
because
like
of the
hook in
buildup.
the attic. Yeah.
Her looking for the cat. And almost a Looney Tunes-esque, like, or a Scooby-Doo, he's right behind me, isn't he, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And he had some
Yeah,
sort
that
of
one's pretty
booby
good.
trap thing where he like pulled a rope and a massive hook swung down from the ceiling and impaled her face, and then
Yeah,
he just like pulled her up into the attic, and I guess she just hung there until she died. Like,
I've never seen somebody like Uno reverse Home Alone somebody before, but this killer managed to set several booby traps for other people. And then pull the bodies up into the attic, except for the last two. And Margot Kidder and the other sorority sister are killed. They're like posed on the bed.
yeah, I don't think he
She's
had
gonna-
enough time to get them up into the attic with the rest of his collection.
Yeah.
How the entrance to the attic is not like modern attics kind of have the stairs at the angle.
Yeah.
This one's straight up a ladder that goes in there. I'm like, how do you carry a body up
That's
a
I'm like,
ladder? And then it's a
Yeah.
small hole, right? Like, it's enough of
Yeah.
a hole for kind of just one person to go through.
yeah.
Well, I guess there's this pulley system apparently.
I guess he pulled
Yeah,
them
he's
up.
got that hook that he can sit
Yeah.
down.
Yeah.
And
That's his signature killing device.
how long has he
I was
been
also
up
trying to
there in
figure
that
out-
attic where he's built this massive
He's
pulley
like worked out
system?
the plans.
Well, it's
Yeah.
like
I
we
was
see
also trying
him
to figure out how the
get in
cat
there,
got
right?
up there.
Yeah.
I get, cats are
yeah.
tricky, but yeah, I guess the cat could go up a ladder.
Is there another entrance to the attic? Maybe I don't know. They only show us that one.
The
but-
window is the only other way that he got up there.
No, 'cause he goes in- He climbs the trellis, he goes in the house, and then he goes up in the attic. Like, when you
Oh,
follow him,
yeah,
you see
yeah.
him go up the ladder and
I
into
see.
the attic.
Yeah.
There
That's
was on that Best of the Worst, or it wasn't Best of the Worst, but the Red Letter Media, they went and did that ghost hunting.
Oh yeah.
That house that they went to, the
There's-
murder was weirdly similar to this, right? Where the guy
There's some
like
New
met
England
them in
home.
town, and he went back to their
Right.
house and waited in their attic, and then
This
came down and killed them
axe
all at night.
murderer waited in like an attic, and then he killed like everybody in the family, and now it's supposedly haunted, of course, and they merchandise it and all that shit because death is merchandisable. But yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, is there this, because the calls coming from inside the house as well is something that I heard as like an urban legend kind of story, one of those like spooky stories around like a campfire. I remember kids telling that story in my elementary to, like 5th grade, whatever. And it's just like, it's a derivative. It's just, you're reading the plot of Black Christmas or whatever the other movie was. But like, to what degree?
I think it was an urban legend before that. I think
Okay.
that's where this kind of pulls from, that urban legend and the sort of like the babysitter by themselves and the killer is at the house. Like Halloween also pulls from that.
Yeah, that and I've heard so many variations of that story, or like the hook on the car door, or the
Right.
dude that's like in the back seat of your car and people keep flashing their lights at you. Like all those creepy stories. where I'm just
The
like, okay.
Irishman.
Yeah, the Irishman. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not sitting there. You sit there. I'm not sitting there.
Oh man. But yeah, that's what was the fucking question that we even got on this? I don't even remember what you were asking, Dixon.
We're talking about kills.
That's right, favorite kills.
Oh, and there's
That's
like,
how
how
we
long
got-
has he been up there in
Yeah,
the attic?
and we don't know.
yeah.
We just speculated. Yeah, that was, it's when that one scene where she goes into the room and discovers Margot Kidder dead and the other girl, then he's like looking through, when you see his eye like full on through the crack of that door, I think that probably gave me the most chills to go with.
That was a cool shot.
It's so cool, but like the little whisper of like, does it call her Agnus or some shit? He's like, hey, Agnus, don't tell her. It's me, Billy. Don't tell him did this. Just like something about the way he's saying it. I'm like, oh my God, no. And the shriek he gives when she hits him and like runs down the stairs and locks the door. That is probably like the most condensed moment of horror for me in the movie, when I was just like, oh shit, like it's really going to happen.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild.
I mean, I guess we should talk a little bit more about the ending. Like, she is freaking out at this point. She runs down into the basement, and Peter, Keir Dullea, is like all of a sudden shows up and is like knocking on the basement window, like, hey, what's going on? Want to talk to you. And seeming very creepy. And then just decides he's going to break into the window, bust out the basement window there and climb in. And then you're not really sure what happens there, and they cut away to another scene, but she's looking horrified and he's looking very creepy. And then when the cops get there, he's just dead, bled out on the floor, and she's passed out from shock or exhaustion. And it's like she's just murdered her boyfriend because she's pretty sure that he's the killer. And it's just this there's an interesting psychological aspect to the film there, where like she is placing all of this fear onto this one person in her life who is creating problems for her through the abortion and his disagreement on that, but like putting all of this other fear onto him as well when it wasn't necessarily deserved. And then like, I think the scariest thing in the movie really is the final realization that, oh my God, she just murdered him, like, and he wasn't even the killer. It's like, yeah, it's scary that the killer is still there, but I think it's almost more like the killer has turned her into a villain herself, right? Through the fear that she has experienced through everything that he has done to her.
It creates these blurred lines. And also the fact that everybody else was so willing to go along with it is terrifying, that like there is effectively like pioneer justice is carried out.
Yeah.
And like, you have John Saxon coming in, because John Saxon's been investigating Peter this whole time, and he's like, this guy's a fucking freak. I bet he's the killer. He immediately made up his mind, and John Saxon's just trying to find the evidence to put against him. And the moment that he comes back and finds him dead, he's like, I knew it was him. There's no extra investigation done. He's like,
yeah, we're done here, Lou.
Yeah.
There's no searching of the rest of the house. Yeah. They still never go into that fucking attic.
Yeah, they're like, okay, well,
and they just leave her alone sleeping there. Like, yeah.
They're just like, case closed, we're leaving, and we'll leave one cop here on the porch. Like, sure. Again, like the lesson just isn't learned, and I think that's like chilling too.
Which is like, where do they go? I guess the reporters are coming in, but it's like they're all like, well, let's go to the Waffle House. Everything's wrapped up. Like, everyone leaves.
Two of them decide to take the random dad character away somewhere. I was like, why do you need two cops to make sure this guy can like make it to the airport or something?
Oh, yeah, didn't he faint? The dad just like faints at the end.
Yeah.
They're like, let's get him to the Waffle House, the airport, or whatever.
I don't know why they brought him to the house anyway. Like, why would they? Hey, crime scene, you want to come? Like, you're in town.
Is this your daughter?
It's amazing to me that they're like, all right, well, she gets killed the killer. We're not going to look for your daughter's body. We're just going to fucking whatever.
Do they go up in the attic? They don't.
Nope, they never go in the attic.
It's like sometime later, eventually they'll find those bodies. So it's whoever buys that house or something.
The smell, I guess, at some point. Yeah.
It's only after all sorority sisters are murdered that they'll actually go and investigate the house.
The cat starts like pawing at the attic entrance.
Yeah.
They hear it.
No, the cat starts murdering people in the streets because it has a taste for human flesh now.
Oh my God. You know what would be really annoying? But do you think that would be really annoying, funny, or really scary or stupid that like if like the dumb sergeant or whatever, the fucking cop that gets paraded, if he was the hero at the end of it, if he like somehow stumbled into saving her, or they had like they like laud him as a hero even though he's like the one who shoots Peter or some shit. Like shoots Peter, and they're like, good job, for once you did something right. They like,
hero cop.
Let's all go for waffles now that you've solved the case. I feel like that would have tied a nicer bow on it and have just an unjust redemption arc for that asshole. But yeah, that ending kind of gives me that vibe of the what was that viral question going around of like, you're in the woods and you encounter a bear or a man, who do you trust, kind of thing. And it was just like,
yeah,
there's a bit of that, like, to what degree are you going to like see a lot of the aggression in like somebody that you know versus, and like project onto it versus like somebody you don't know, or like some other assumption outside of your initial first hunch. Like Saxon goes with Occam's razor and is like, yeah, it's probably this guy. And that's what the rest of the police force says, despite Saxon like berating his sergeant for being an asshole and dismissive of the sorority girls, when the guy's like, it's probably your boyfriend calling and making these jokes. Ultimately, Saxon comes to the same conclusion. It was your boyfriend doing it. And so there's that chilling message of like, maybe everything isn't as cut and dry. Maybe it's not Occam's razor. Maybe you don't need to always just assume that that's going to be what it is.
Yeah, that's the interesting you were saying earlier, that thinking back to like, oh, we used to leave our door unlocked. It's the sort of the same old mentality of crime before you have those major serial killings that we know so much more, or other horrible things since, that sort of just, probably they just don't buy it, right? They're like, they're probably fucking with you. The girl's not dead. She's probably just hanging at her boyfriend's house or whatever, right? There's just like no effort into actually finding out.
Yeah. If anybody out there has dismissive police stories, please submit them to us on Discord. I'm sure that we would. We should have gathered them beforehand and just told anecdotes as well. But yeah, I've had a few of those where I'm just like, wow, you guys really don't do a whole lot. It doesn't really help me, but that's cool.
We got leads. We're working on.
You got any leads? You working in shifts?
Working in shifts.
Well, yeah, that's the end covered, right? Right?
Yeah, I guess there's one other thing to vaguely talk about is Christmas has fucking nothing to do. Like the whole, it's absolutely just to have a fun title and a fun, and there's a Christmas tree. Like it's just the juxtaposition of like, it's a happy time, Christmas, and look at this fucked up stuff, but there's no effort put into like,
people are being
Christmas.
murdered.
It's absolutely just a grab.
Yeah, none of the characters are even really celebrating Christmas or anything like that. They're just like wanting to drink and have a good time and
which could be any time,
sisters.
Right? Yeah,
there aren't like thematically Christmas murders. What would a thematically Christmas style kill in this movie look like?
You get sharpened classic
candy
star.
Cane.
Oh yeah,
sharpened candy cane, star from the top of the tree.
Oh yeah,
down the chimney.
Yeah, I was thinking like Margot Kidder passes out on the floor next to the tree, and her booze knocks over and it's spilling out into the presents, and then the cat knocks the star off and it's got an exposed wire or some shit. Yeah, there you go. And this house just goes up in
Final Christmas destination.
Are you suggesting that the cat should be the serial killer?
Yes, I think that would honestly be.
I like it. I really think that's the sequel. It's Blacker Christmas, and you have the cat who's got a taste for human flesh now, and it's just on a chair. Right.
It was the perfect crime.
No.
Patrick, what is it? Oh fuck, I just forgot his name. Kevin Spacey is the cat in this movie. It's a sequel to 9 Lives too, right? Honestly, I feel like one thing that could have been, well, I guess there was we don't know who killed the little girl in the park. Everybody just kind of assumes it.
Yeah,
that was like a good red herring sort of thing of like, everybody just assumed one woman goes missing, little girl killed.
And we have no evidence that the killer has left the house at all.
Yeah.
This whole time, like it would be very out of, the character that we know of him to just go out into the park and kill a random girl there.
Yeah, that's not Billy's style.
No, he likes to send weird phone calls and creep you out for a few days.
Yeah, waits up in the attic, holding a hook, going, and letting it go with enough force to hit somebody's eye and hook them. Well, I feel like we've run through Black Christmas. We've opened up all the gifts that this movie has to offer. Except for we never talked about that awesome guy who plays Santa Claus and how he does such a shitty job of it. He's the original bad Santa. When he shows up to that orphans thing or that like lesser fortunate children, and he's like, why the fuck do I gotta be here for this and shit? And I was just like, man, This is where Billy Bob Thornton got it, isn't he?
It feels like that scene was added just to give it a more Christmas theme.
Yeah, there's not enough Christmas in this. Well, cool. Well, Ryan, would you recommend Black Christmas as both a holiday film or a slasher?
Holiday film ? I don't really know. As a slasher, yeah. I think even with this being, the prototypical slasher movie, it holds up. It's still a fun watch for like a slasher. I'm sure with like a group of friends kind of situation or whatever, you'll still have a good time watching this. Where other things that kind of like create genres, you go back and watch them and it's like they haven't figured it out yet. Or it's like it's so overdone that it go back to it and it's not good. And this is like the bits and pieces of this are overdone, but it still works.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it has that. I mean, I said at the beginning, it has like that Blade Runner kind of quality where it's sort of on that cusp of starting new things, new trends and tropes and using those. But it's still engaging to watch. I'm not going to comment on Blade Runner. I feel like it's engaging to watch, but plenty of other people don't share that opinion. So, but Dixon, would you recommend Black Christmas?
Yes, I would recommend it. I regraded it on Letterboxd from a 2 because I had not seen it before to 3.5. I liked it. I think there's a lot of good stuff in it. There are some slow parts. The characters are not well developed at all. But I think there's enough in it to make it engaging. The cinematography, the score, the kills are enough reason to give it a watch, especially because it is so influential. Like if you are interested in horror or giallo slasher cinema, then it's definitely worth watching.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree because it has all those things and John Saxon.
Yes, it does.
John Saxon saved this film. He's doing his best, damn it. And I love seeing him in these movies now. I think back then I just didn't have as much of an appreciation for everything John Saxon has done for me.
Yeah.
But thank you,
Although
John
a senile
Saxon.
Edmund O'Brien would have been fun.
Honestly, yes. I feel like that would have put a different tone. We probably would have seen some of his Alzheimer's peaking up.
Yeah.
And, I feel like they only had so much film they could shoot this with.
It probably would have made it more comedic, if only by accident.
Yeah, that would have been unfortunate.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. That is 3 recommends for the gift that is Black Christmas. It's not that much of a Christmas movie, but if you're looking for a horror film and you want to fit it into your Christmas lineup, sure, fuck it, why not? Go ahead. Yeah, Ryan, what's up?
Super weird tangent. To Christmas, Bob Clark, as a director, is known for 3 movies.
Is it Porky's?
Did he do
Porky's?
Porky's. Mm-hmm. He did Porky's and A Christmas Story.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, both this and Porky's are so exploitative.
Yes. Like
dirty, weird movies. And then it's like in a classic Christmas movie.
Yeah, that's true. Did Bob Clark, wait, no, not Bob Clark. Did whoever wrote this movie, do you think that they wrote the turtles fucking line for Margot Kidder, or that Margot Kidder
God.
just
Margot Kidder would pull that out?
That's that's such a great line.
What was it? Like they fuck for years?
She was like, do you know that there's turtles down at the zoo that fuck for 3 days?
Oh, yeah.
And then she does the exact motion of them fucking and talks about how she went there for 3 days in a row to watch them.
It's like, I'm lucky if I can get somebody to go 3 minutes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there you have it, everybody. We would recommend it. I wouldn't recommend Porky's. I don't think you should go see another Bob Clark film. And I feel like everybody is in varying degrees of indifference to A Christmas Story that is in our generation.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, okay.
Honestly, Bob Clark also did Baby Geniuses.
Oh, no.
So it really, if you look at his catalog, honestly, A Christmas Story weirdly stands out as decent.
Well, if anybody out there doesn't like A Christmas Story and they want to elevate it, I guess you should watch the rest of Bob Clark's filmography, and then you'll be appreciative of what you had before you watch those other movies. So there you go. Signing off from Afterthoughts. Thank you so much for joining us for our Christmas episode. We hope that you get whatever you want this year, whether it's the coal or the presents, a visit from Krampus or Santa or Billy in the attic. Just
hopefully not Billy.
Hopefully not
BB
Billy,
gun.
but a BB gun. Just enjoy yourselves. Be safe out there. Hey, watch a John Saxon film this Christmas, just for me. I have been your host, John Garcia. Joining me as always,
Ryan King. Yeah, I think if you're gathering your family around and watching Christmas movies, this is probably better than watching those Hallmark movies.
That's true.
It can't be worse.
That's honestly true.
God. It's only Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July that's better than.
And also joining us,
Michael Dixon. I have a real problem with the amount of like Hallmark movie duplication that is happening in our society right now. Mm-hmm. Right, it's like every company is making their own Hallmark. Like Netflix has their own Hallmark movies. There's other companies that are putting them out. It's like my girlfriend has watched a couple of Netflix ones recently, and it's like just slutty Hallmark. It's like they're like, what if we made it where like they're just like a lot of shirtless dudes?
It's a little raunchier.
And it's like a little bit raunchier. And we know that everybody watching these Hallmark movies has got to be horny. We're just gonna turn that up a little bit, but you have the same stupid ass plot and boring characters, and got to save the family business while looking at some rock hard abs.
I feel like those Netflix ones also have more ad-libbing and improv in them than they need.
Oh, you think so?
Like they go off book and off, because it feels to me like somebody wrote the script on the back of the napkin they were using to wipe up the rest of the cocaine that they were doing. And then like they're like, give this to Craig Robinson or Joe Trulio or whatever and put him in Hot Frosty.
Yeah.
Now have them do whatever scene.
I want to touch on this in the recommend or refute.
Oh, well, there you go. There's
this
a
is
teaser,
hint
everybody.
It's a teaser if you want to come back.
We're going into it. But I agree, Dixon. I'm concerned as well. I'm also concerned that Martin Scorsese hasn't spoken up about this like he has the Marvel movies.
Good point.
Where is Scorsese when we need him most?
I would say that Hallmark movies are more like theme park rides. Very slow ones.
They're
maybe like a merry-go-round.
They're like, It's like the fucking, not the carousel, but the fucking Ferris wheel. It's a Ferris wheel.
Yeah, sure.
Why not?
Get the exact experience you were looking for every time. It plays with your heartstrings the exact same way.
You always know the same view at every point of the journey.
Maybe you're a little bit nauseous at the end, but you've had a good time for the most part.
Right. Oh, man. That's why I always bring booze on them. Well, Dixon, did you want to give us your signature sign-off?
Thanks for putting up with our bullshit. Have a very Merry Christmas.
Have a bullshit Christmas.